City Council workshop meeting minutes from January 21st, 2025 and June 5th, 2025. Item B3 is approval of special meeting minutes from January 16th, 2025 and revised June 2nd, 2025 meeting minutes. Item B4 is a proclamation recognizing Farmers Market Week. I think Mayor Pro Tem that you want to read this proclamation.
Yes, I will read the proclamation as we typically do. We have a proclamation declaring this Belmont Farmers Market Week. Whereas the City of Belmont is proud of our Belmont NC Farmers Market, now more than 2 years old. And whereas farmers markets promote healthy communities by increasing access to nutritious, locally grown foods, encouraging healthy eating habits, and serving as vibrant community gathering spaces. And whereas farmers markets play a key role in strengthening our food system and fostering sustainability, resilience, and food security in our region. And whereas farmers markets contribute to the local economy by supporting agricultural entrepreneurs and small businesses while helping to preserve farmland and rural livelihoods. And whereas farmers markets offer ways for new farmers to enter the marketplace and connect farmers directly to consumers. And whereas the economic impact of farmers markets not only includes direct benefits to farmers and affiliated businesses, but also benefits to the community by stimulating downtown revitalization and enhancing community engagement. And whereas the City Council recognizes the importance of expanding agricultural marketing opportunities that assist and encourage the next generation of farmers and ranchers, generate farm income to help stimulate business development and job creation, and build community connections. Now, therefore, to further awareness of farmers markets' contributions to Belmont, I, James Heffron, Mayor Pro Tem, do hereby proclaim the week of August 3rd to 8th, 2025 as Belmont Farmers Market Week, in conjunction with the observance of National Farmers Market Week. I call upon Belmont citizens to celebrate the important contributions of farmers markets and the hardworking farmers, vendors, organizers, and volunteers who make them possible with appropriate observance and activities. In witness thereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of Belmont, North Carolina to be affixed this 4th day of August, 2025. So happy Farmers Market Week to everyone, and you all can, yes, thank you. You all can celebrate. There will be a farmers market this Thursday, as there is every Thursday from 4 to 7 in Stowe Park. And I can vouch, my wife can vouch, that they have the best peaches that you can find this time of year. So again, happy Farmers Market Week, happy Farmers Market Week, Alex. Very good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes.
The next item on the consent agenda, item B5, is the funding for the Governor's Highway Safety Program DUI traffic position for fiscal year 2026. The total grant amount is $55,827, and the local cash appropriation is $9,852. Item B6 is the acceptance of certificate of sufficiency and scheduling of public hearing on petition requesting non-contiguous annexation for Lakeview Farms. The clerk has prepared this document. This is action number 2 in the 3-step process. The first action was to receive the petition. The second action is to report her findings to City Council, which this is what this document does, and they call for a public hearing, which can be set on September 2nd, 2025. Item B7 is to consider approval of the Planning Department's request to apply for the Central Lima Regional Council Mobility Hubs Pilot Grant. Our Planning Department was recently notified of this grant, and it is a way for Central Lima has 4 pilot mobility hub studies that can be considered within the region. And so we thought that our trolley project would be a good applicant to apply for this grant. There's a short time frame in the grant, so I asked the planning department to go ahead and submit for the grant and that's kind of outside of bounds of our current policy, but, the, grant was actually due before this meeting, so I said, let's go ahead and apply for it, and if you all approve it, then it will be great. If not, then we can always rescind our application for that. Item B8 is fiscal year 25 budget amendment number 21. And this budget amendment recognizes various revenues that were above our expenditures for 2025 in the amount of $2,430,723. And the way the budget amendment is split up is that there are various other departments that had expenditures that were over last fiscal year. And so the amount of our revenues that were over, we're assigning those to various departments that you can see on the list. The final item on page 58 there, it says future capital. That amount is our unassigned fund balance, and so you'll be receiving $1,583,220 into unassigned fund balance for the general fund. The second page of that document shows that you've got a budget amendment for the North Belmont booster pump station. That's part of the CIP project in the amount of $130,350. So we're taking $130,350 from ARPA and putting that into the anticipated expenditures for those projects. And the rest of the lines on water and sewer are also at $130,350.
So it's all one budget amendment, right?
It's,
Just
yes, sir.
different funds and different.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then item agenda B9 is the traffic calming policy amendment. This was really due to when we received traffic calming policy recommendations. Our stealth stat device that the police department uses didn't match what our current policy had. And so Chief Falls had prepared, some slides that kind of explain that process. The main thing that we need to do for this item is to amend the policy number 4A. And 4A should read, the 85th percentile speed as measured by the Belmont Police Department traffic monitoring devices should be equal to or greater than 5 miles per hour over the posted speed limit during a measured 1 week period. And so we want to make that clear that 4A is the only item that will be changed, and that is really because of the stealth stat device. And those are your consent items, and I'll turn it back over to you for any questions, Mayor.
Thank you, Miles. Any questions on any consent agenda items?
Yeah, I've got a couple actually. B8, the 2025 budget amendment, is it possible just to maybe get a little more breakout of the items that were allocated with the excess anticipated revenues that came in for 25 and how that was allocated?
Yes, so for the general fund, like I mentioned, you see that you've got anticipated revenues their last fiscal year of $27,638,896. You actually received $30,069,619, which the difference between those two is the excess revenue. That amount is $2,430,723. That $2.4 million is divided between, you've got mayor and council. You can see that we're going from an amount to an amount. And so for that particular line, it's going from $166,773 to $206,276. The difference between those two is our lobbyist contract.
Okay.
And so that item was not budgeted at all last year, so we had to include that, in that particular line.
Okay.
For mayor and council. For administration, there is a spreadsheet that, I have and that Jared Piles, our finance director, also has with him, that has like the breakout of the budget for each department that needs an amendment. And there's various lines within, the departments, where that dollar figure is broken down. So you're going from an amount and then to an amount, and that's the amount that we're using out of that, the additional revenue, that $2.4 million. And so we plugged it in for administration, for police, for fire, for the Main Street, for sanitation, and for Parks and Recreation. Each one of those, line items have an addition to it. And then you've got future capital, and so the difference between the future capital amount is approximately $1.5 million. And so that 1.5 is gonna go into unassigned fund balance. Hopefully that makes sense. I could go down each and every line if you like to see that, or like to hear that, to see
This was
exactly
everything that, kind of stood out as,
for like the fire, for Parks and Rec, those two, and for administration, we had like various, vehicle and equipment lines that need to be adjusted. And those are the main differences between those. For the police department, there was the main difference in the police department. It looks like that, there's a salary, error. It looks possibly like a salary error at the beginning of the fiscal year last year. And so as you move through the budget process, they're spending down your salaries. But if the budget is off to begin with in the police department salary, then you have like various other things that go along with it, all the benefits that go along with that.
yeah.
So
Was the salary adjustment that we did for the police, was that also part of that delta between the?
That's for this upcoming.
That's for 26,
Yes.
Next.
Okay.
So for example, the police department, you can see has, if you're looking at the budget amendment, the police department, I hadn't done the calculation, but it's, the difference between 6.2 to 6.7, so, $500,000. The spreadsheet that I'm looking at here, the actual amount is $333,000. So the budget amendment is inflated, given that we're not finished with our audit. So you could see that, if at the end of the audit period, there's excess revenue, that money will also dump into your unassigned fund balance. So even though you've got, certain things plugged into here, the actual amount is less than what's on your budget amendment. So we increased the budget amendment amount to cover for any future expenditures that would have to come out during the audit process.
And then that excess goes to the unassigned fund balance.
Right.
If there is.
If there is anything. And it's inflated because we didn't want to have like 2 year-end budget amendments.
Right.
We didn't want to like exactly plug in $333,000 and then turn around and bring another one back next month and have to go through that. So these numbers are, inflated for every line that I've looked at as a comparison. They're inflated.
Okay.
So it's up on the budget line item by $333,000, primarily driven by salary and insurance, right? Because if salary goes up, your insurance goes up. Can we understand what is driving this delta? Like, do we know specifically, did we just under budget or
I think for
unanticipated expenses?
yes, I think for the salaries, particularly in the police, I think it's under budgeted this fiscal year. But then you also, and that includes the various benefits, but you also have, like, for example, vehicle maintenance in the amount of $64,000 that was over. Vehicle maintenance is, you think you know how much the maintenance is gonna be, but then there's items that occur throughout the year that, really blow it on the vehicle maintenance on that one, so that's a $64,000 amount. K-9 supplies were $2,300 over, firearms and over. But that's, you know, plug them out through the league that we have, and so that we didn't budget enough, for property and liability insurance, so there's another 38,000. Undercover operations, you're over about 10,000. Vehicle equipment and lease, our leasing is, over about 12,000. And the final, so those are a few of those items that you can see the breakout.
What was the salary line?
The salary line item was over $83,923. We're at $84,000.
And that's not being driven by like additional headcount or anything, like people that we've added or anything like that? Or just potential under budget?
Through the budget process this year, we looked at all the position allocations and realized that in our position allocation last year, or this year that's we're currently looking at, the DUI enforcement officer was not budgeted, even though we picked that up this year. If you recall, I updated the position allocation piece that shows that code enforcement, not code enforcement, the DUI enforcement officer. So there was one position that was not even budgeted for that one.
And then I guess just going forward, I mean, the question to be asked is, are we pretty confident with the budget we just passed in regards to the salary line items for this? Because this is kind of a big one. It's good that we got the 2.4 million upside here, and then more than half of that's going to future capital projects, which is easy, but do we just have a level of confidence in regards to the budget?
I feel comfortable, yes, I feel comfortable with the budget this year. Our staff has done a great job each year to go through each individual line and look at them. And they did that even in more detail this year, so you can see that it's getting, each year it's getting better and better, it's getting refined is a good word. We're refining the budget process, and so they've gone in to actually see exactly where the lines were, to budget what needs to be in each line. I feel confident.
We have software to assist us with that, is that correct?
Yes.
And as we get more and more information, it allows us to be more and more accurate in our projections.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thanks, Miles.
Any other questions on consent agenda items?
I just had one more. This one won't take nearly as much discussion, I don't think, and that's on the last item, which was B9. So the change that we're making to 4A is going from 15% of vehicles recorded at a speed more than 5 miles over to 85.
It's not a percent, it's and we've got the police department here who can explain this one, because by just taking out 15% and adding 85% into it was not accurate. And so therefore we went back to see how we could explain it. So we went back actually to the old policy like a couple of years ago that had this kind of language in there. So it's the 85th percentile speed as measured by their traffic device. And I would recommend that the police departments come up and explain that.
I didn't know if this should be discussed now or if we should pull it off. I mean, I don't want
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if, I think it's all right to clarify it, because I don't think it's, I don't think it's going to hold up the approval, but I think it is, because I struggled with this too, and we had some discussion, and that's what led to the change that Miles read. It's a little bit, if you look at what's online and in this packet, yes, it looks like we're changing 15 to 85%. That doesn't make any sense. But it's like this 85th percentile, which is like this, in a world where there's no like traffic signals or stop signs or whatever, what is the speed that 85% of the drivers would drive at without any of these impediments? Is that, and so if,
Well,
yeah, let's
this Sergeant
Question I would
Cody
fail.
Wilson,
yes, two trains leaving. Yes.
Assistant Chief Arthur Bullock can explain it, and that's.
Yeah, I brought Cody with me tonight because he's
either of you have a PhD or
really familiar with this. So I'm gonna let him kind of explain it to you.
Okay, so the 85th percentile is basically the Federal Highway Administration, it's what they use national. It's like the standard for them, for their traffic engineers, and that's what's placed on our devices. So, I'll give you an example of it. The 85th percentile, or the 85th percentile speed on the road is 42 miles an hour, so that means 85% of vehicles are going 42 miles an hour or less. And then that means the 15% are exceeding that speed. So the way our devices calculate it, yeah, it does that to 85 percentile.
Yeah.
So with it changing at 15%, it's not going to match our speed studies. So it's not going to match what we have on the
It's
devices.
just a way that the speed is
Yeah.
measured.
It's
So
just the way
they're
that's
trying to
measured.
do apples to oranges.
Yeah.
apparently.
Yeah.
So if it's 85, if it's the 85th percentile speed is 42 miles an hour, and the speed limit for the road is 25 miles an hour, then we've got a problem.
Right.
Because if it's more than 5% or 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, which in your example it would be, then we'd have to look at taking additional traffic calming measures pursuant to policy.
But this is like the federal thing. This is what everybody uses. Like your DOT guys, when they set out those little strips on the road that counts cars and all that speed and stuff, that's what they use when they do their studies, is the 85th percentile. So,
And the way the machine like prints out the data, it prints it out in this format. We were having to take that, or they were having to take that information and convert it to our existing policy, which, I mean, it's still applied for the existing policy, just the conversion factor there, you know.
Just extra work.
Yeah, just extra work. So we're trying to marry the two up. You've got data that comes out, and we can present that as it is.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions? All right, then we will move on, and I will call the regular city council meeting for the city of Belmont for August 4th, 2025 to order. If everyone would please rise, and Councilman Rofeld will lead us in the invocation.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together for this important meeting to conduct business on behalf of the city and our citizens. We thank you for your provision and blessings upon our community, and for our staff who spent time preparing the presentations that we will hear tonight. We also want to say a special prayer this evening for our children and staff as they go back to school in the next couple of weeks, and that you would continue to watch over our town and our country. We thank you for the diligent work of the brave men and women who are tasked with ensuring our safety, and we ask for your guidance as we consider the matters before us tonight. It's in your heavenly name we pray.
Amen. Please remain standing. Councilman Hill will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yeah. Recite after me.
Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. I will at this time entertain a motion to set the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Jason, second by Alex. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? The agenda is set. I will also entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion, but Jim, do we need to do it as modified to include B9, or are we okay with how it was published online?
I would say include the language.
Yeah.
Okay, motion to approve the consent agenda with the addition of B9 that we reviewed.
Okay.
Second.
Motion made by Alex, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda is adopted. That takes us to our regular agenda, item C1, public comment. The city manager will provide the sign-in sheet. Just as a general reminder for public comment, all speakers have up to 3 minutes on whatever topic you should speak about. Please provide your name and address at the beginning. Be respectful of council, staff, and the public. This is a time for speakers to bring a matter to council's attention. There's not any debate or discussion about these items. However, if warranted, council may ask city staff to follow up with the speaker on his or her concern or provide additional information. And so off we go. We have 2 individuals signed up for public comment tonight. The first is Michael Tirani. Thank you.
Michael Trani at 114 Poplar Street here in Belmont. I've lived there for the past 24 years and enjoy being here in Belmont immensely. My concern is about the situation we are faced with our yard debris. It has not been an issue until this year. And if you look at the handout that I gave to you, we have a lot of unique situations on Poplar Street. It is the second oldest street in Belmont. Many of the structures as well as the vegetation are established over 100 years. So therefore, our yard debris output is significant, especially being that many of our us as homeowners, we end up doing our own yard work instead of having it contracted out by someone. This has continued to become an issue when the service was switched from waste management to City of Belmont. We now have to make reservations and make a request. It's a bit of an effort, but we have adjusted to it. Our neighboring cities, Mount Holly, Bremerton, and Caddo, they do not have the same procedure in place. When I arrived home on Friday, on the day before July 4th holiday, I received a citation from the Code Enforcement Office. Obviously, the way that is worded, because it's written legal matters, it sounds very threatening. It makes you feel like a criminal. So I investigated by contacting the city staff the following week, and they reviewed it, but they were not able to come up with a solution. So I'm here to ask for your review to see if a solution we can come up with, or you can advise the city staff to come up with a solution. If you look at the first two handouts, which is a photo of my yard debris, and then the second page is the yard-based program by City of Belmont. The photos that are shown are very much as is stated in the guidelines by City of Belmont. So somehow that was puzzling to me as to why I received the citation. Your second handout shows photos of the homes on my side of the street from this past Sunday. As you see, there's quite a bit of vegetation, and our yards are such that we really cannot put items on our property, because if we do, then every week that we have yard debris pickup, we have to call the city and say, you damaged our structure, you have damaged our vegetation.
That's 3 minutes.
Oh, 3 minutes?
Yes.
All
So, and then a sentence or two wrap up.
right. Okay. The second page is more like a generic that is been provided by Code Enforcement. As you see, those are Google images. They're from winter months, which there's hardly any vegetation. So the first page of the photos is more realistic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Kathy Ferreira.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Ferreira. I live at 102 Poplar Street. In the first week of July, my neighbor Joyce Lewis at 20 Poplar Street received a notice of violation, civil citation warning for improper yard waste placement. My family and I do Joyce's yard work, and she told me this is the first time in her life she received a police warning. I assured her I would talk to the proper authorities and take full responsibility. Our historical homes have mature yards and produce constant yard waste. My family and I help with 2 elderly neighbors' yards in addition to our own. I've spoken with the city workers that pick up the waste and the workers on site in our neighborhood when they're there, and they've specified where and how they prefer the yard waste, and we followed that to their specifications. The pickup services work really well. In reviewing the citation warning, it states that all yard waste cannot obstruct the free passage of the person and vehicles and shall not be placed on streets or sidewalks. The City of Belmont yard waste requirement flyer states the yard waste not included in the City of Belmont's yard waste program is waste outside of the right-of-way. The code of enforcement is contradictory to the City of Belmont requirement. I inquired in person at the Public Works office, and they confirmed the requirements are as written. Jake asked me to contact Officer Yeager, the code enforcement officer, to inquire about the ordinance. I emailed Officer Yeager in regards to the contradicting requirements, and she emailed me thanking me for bringing up the contradiction to her attention, and that she'd be in touch with Public Works regarding the wording. She included photos of 6 Poplar homes, which Michael just gave you, I think, and where the yardwork should be placed as defined in the ordinance. The locations are front steps, driveways, and grass areas above retaining walls. These historical Poplar Street homes are 100 years old, and the current ordinance was written for newer development. This is not a one-size-fits-all application of services, and by placing yard waste on private property in the indicated location raises serious concerns regarding accessibility for the residents and liability of damage to existing private property from the heavy equipment used to pick up the yard waste. I contacted Councilman Alex Sukes to discuss the contradictory wording and the concerns I had with the placement suggestions. He said he would discuss with city staff. I would also request the consideration of the City of Belmont Works notifying the residents for this type of violation, since they provide the service, and then involving the police department if it's necessary. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this evening.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So again, we typically don't debate or discuss, but there can be direction or further information. And I know that there has been a lot of staff attention devoted to this issue. As Ms. Ferrer mentioned, she spoke with Councilman Zooks, and I've spoken to some residents. This issue sort of bled over into Stowe Manor Village as well, where they have similar issues with small yards and no sidewalks. And so I don't know if Miles, you want to provide further information on the follow-up that staff did following these concerns, and then whether there'd be any additional direction from the council.
Yeah, so probably 3 weeks ago, we met as staff, Public Works Department, the Police Department, Code Enforcement, and myself to discuss Poplar Street and Stowe Manor Village regarding yard waste on the streets and on the sidewalks. Given that there was several complaints from people that walk the sidewalk, and it turned that into code enforcement. So we were looking at a possible solution, just like the gentleman mentioned. Poplar Street's a little different because you have certain areas you have a retaining wall, and you got a sidewalk, and you got a street, and cars parked parallel to the street. And so we discussed possibly placing, because certain people were putting it on the sidewalk, which causes folks to either go on the road or not walk at all. And so that was not the best option. We talked about, is there a way that we could possibly strike off a certain section of Poplar Street and then place yard waste in the street? And that kind of goes against the principle of putting yard waste in the street anyway, given that near heavy rain events, whatever's in the street washes down into the storm drainage system, makes clogs, causes an issue there. Plus, if there was no cars parked parallel and we had designated an area, then you would have yard waste in the street, probably a lot of it, because it'd be a general yard waste collection area where vehicles may run into it. We also explored the possibility there's an unopened street right-of-way on Poplar. If we could, given that it was a city property anyway, could we designate an area in that particular location and have all the residents put their yard waste in that location? We didn't think that was a good idea because that location has 2 neighbors, and what kind of neighbor wants to live beside a yard waste pile for multiple homes, not just a couple, but you got Poplar Street and you got Stowe Manor Village. And so we were kind of out of the options and said that we have a current ordinance. We need to abide by our current ordinance. May be cumbersome for the property owners, given that they have to put the yard waste outside the right of way on the property. We also talked about our, I call it like a the one-armed bandit that reaches out and gets the yard waste. I don't know the perfect term for that, but, the bandit truck, the claw truck, the bandit truck. I know there's issues with property owners saying that that particular, piece of equipment causes, when you reach down to grab the yard waste, you damage, potentially damage, the grass at times. And so we said, for those properties along, Poplar Street and Stove Manor Village, we just need to take extra precaution with our folks, our staff that goes out and picks it up. We'll probably have to do it by hand in certain locations just because of power lines and trees and just the nature of Poplar Street in general. And so there were some, code enforcement measures, letters that went out because there was complaints on those properties, and that's for complaint-based, code enforcement department. So if there were complaints, our code enforcement officer goes out. If they find a violation, they write a violation letter and send it to the property owner. But we also went one step above that and wanted to send out, basically like an educational flyer. We've done that in other neighborhoods. We've had multiple complaints, people putting it in the street. So we can notify all residents, here's what our ordinance states, here's the reason why we do it. And so there was a generalized letter that I think code enforcement sent out. I know that I read it. I think that they were gonna send that out to everybody on Poplar and Stove Manor Village, but that's kind of how it transpired over the past 3 weeks, is that we know that, it could be cumbersome, but we did not think the other options were as good as what our current, code states, so I didn't want to, make a recommendation to change the code at all, to stick by our code.
Do we have that issue anywhere else other than Poplar?
Not that I'm aware of as far as like how tight the road is and how the sidewalk is and the parallel parking, and then you've got a retaining wall on property. Nowhere else in the city do I recall that. We've had other issues about people that don't have a sidewalk, in neighborhoods, and they put their yard waste in the street. And then cars, have to avoid it, and walkers have to go around it and get further into the lane of traffic. And so we have sent out those notification letters, hey, this is our policy, put it in your yard. Here's the yard waste procedure, here's how you need to cut the size of the limbs.
Might one alternative be, because I think this is a valid complaint, and there are some unique characteristics about that street. I know in our neighborhood, some folks will put out their yard waste like a week before the pickup, right? Even though you're not ordering it, you know when it's gonna be picked up, typically on, Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Right? The request has to be in by noon on Tuesday, so I'll use that, right? So maybe in this unique situation, maybe we could advise those residents, hey, we'll permit you to put your yard waste on the sidewalk neatly and abiding by all the other conditions, but do it on the morning of pickup. In other words, that it's not a perfect solution. It's reduce the amount of time that the yard waste is on the sidewalk.
That's kind of what I was getting at, is maybe designating a certain day, weekly, monthly, I don't know, that it comes by and collects it for anybody on Poplar that would have it, that way they can put it out, adjacent to the sidewalk.
I think you guys have done a great job of looking at all the other alternatives. I don't know that there's an easy fix, but at least that might compress the amount of time that the yard waste is actually impeding
Yeah.
pedestrians if they were recommended to put it out in the morning of the pickup.
I mean, we could really do anything based on your direction, but you're still gonna have the person that walks, and that person's gonna have to go around, they're gonna put their complaints in.
And I think that's where maybe a little grace and latitude, with our enforcement staff to just say, hey, this is a unique area, and you don't want to get into the business of making exceptions for one, because you gotta do it for everybody, but, I don't know that there's much of any other.
Yeah, I was gonna bring this up in my other business, but since we're on this, I do think we need to do something. It's tough because this road, as they have spoken about, is so narrow, but on top of that, you have one side that kind of the residents have all kind of conformed to as a parking lot. So it's even narrower. When you look at these pictures, I think it's a pretty good representation of the challenges that the residents are running into, particularly in the cases where there's elderly neighbors. You're blocking their entire sidewalk. You're blocking potentially where it's suggested to go, blocking their driveway, which is not conducive to the residents that live in there. I don't ever remember this becoming an issue or being popped up in the past. Maybe it's something that I've missed, but
Well, because it's my feeling is that since it's a complaint-based system, somebody has started complaining. If they weren't, this could have been done for years. If nobody was complaining, then it's not an issue. That's my
But
guess.
at the end of the day, as we see, there's not, one shoe doesn't fit every situation, and this is a very unique situation, right? Just like some of the drainage situations we've already reviewed in past council meetings during this. So I think there needs to be a grace period, kind of like maybe Charlie, Jason, what you guys were talking about. I think that makes sense. I could get behind that. And then to your point, Jason, there's just going to have to be some latitude here. Because this is a very special situation in this instance, and it sounds like it's not an issue anywhere else. So I feel comfortable making this an exception within our policy for this road.
So if there's some direction to staff, because although I think we're sort of delving into the debate portion that we're not supposed to do, but I agree that, looking at these pictures, it's like, what are you supposed to
Well, I
do?
think that the responsibility should be shared between the residents and the city in this case. So if you know you're gonna put yard waste in, if there's some communication we could put out to suggest that they put in their order, by the deadline, but don't actually put the yard waste on the street or on the sidewalk until the morning of pickup, so Wednesday morning, first thing, right? And then on the city side, again, that we understand and we communicate to our staff that this is a neighborhood community that has some, there's special circumstances, and we understand that we have, some elderly folks here who've never gotten a speeding ticket, much less a code enforcement violation. So I think that's, a good step that we could take to provide some goodwill there.
All right. I think that's,
Yes, let me speak with code enforcement, public works on like a designated day and how we will notify citizens and how we become lenient when we get complaints. Let me think through that, and then I'll inform you all maybe through a council update or next council meeting.
because it's, and as I told the residents of Stone Manor Village, I mean, it's like a very transient or effervescent complaint, that it's not like some of these code enforcement issues, but, by the very terms of the policy, it's only going to be there for a little while anyway, and then it's going to be picked up, whereas some of the other code enforcement issues are far more permanent. So, perhaps there is some room for flexibility and understanding, but I don't know if we want to belabor the point
No,
too much.
I don't want to go into it, but
Yeah.
maybe just a suggestion or idea. When I first came on council, Jim, you'll probably remember this. Council went around to various different neighborhoods and communities to try to get input and stuff. They did it in Haverfall. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity here where staff and or council, if needed, can go out to this area to also discuss with the residents. So, because when you look at these pictures, when you're looking at code enforcement, maybe you look at the text of what someone's doing wrong. Sometimes it's really different when you start looking at the pictures and actually seeing it in person. So maybe there's an opportunity for that as well.
All right, very good, thank you. All right, so is that, are we good, Miles, with the correction? Okay. So that concludes item C1, public comment. We now move to item C2, continuation of public hearing for ZA 2025-01 Residence Inn. We previously opened the public hearing back in, I believe, was it May? In any event, the public hearing is open, so we don't need to move to go into it. Reagan Murphy will present on behalf of staff, keeping in mind that we have heard this presentation, most of us. So if there's some questions or whatever to get up to speed, but we had one specific item that we were focused on, and that was sewer capacity. So
Precisely. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. Thanks for having me back. As Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, we opened this public hearing for the Residence Inn project on May 5th. The applicant is Warren Norman Incorporated and W&A Engineering, and the property owner is the Southern Benedictine Society. And I'll just give a very, very brief recap of the project itself as a refresher, And then really the question that led to the continuation in the first place was the recent release at the time of the initial public hearing of the sewer capacity study. So after I give that background, I'll hand things over to Jonathan Wilson, our Public Works Director, to speak on some new updates and the Public Works Department's stance on how we move forward on this project. So this project is a conditional zoning request for a 24 about acre parcel north of I-85 off of Caramont Parkway and Beatty Drive. The proposed zoning is Highway Commercial Conditional District. And they are proposing to develop a 107-room Marriott Residence Inn hotel on a 4.1 acre portion of the site, but they're proposing to apply the conditional rezoning to the full 24 acre parcel in anticipation of future development, so that the entire parcel can be rezoned at once rather than us needing to consider each new development piecemeal as it comes forward. So with that, I'm going to jump all the way ahead, and I will allow our Public Works Director, Jonathan Wilson, to speak to his findings around sewer capacity. And then if there are questions about any other part of the proposal or the proposed rezoning, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reagan, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. So in the packet, there was a memo from myself to City Council and City Manager. At this time, staff does feel confident that we can accept the 19,000 gallons a day of wastewater flow from this project into our current capacity, or current sewer collection system. Be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Jonathan?
So I saw in your memo, there was kind of a summation of what the plans were with regard to the flow. Can you go and tell us at a high level, like what the applicant's plans are to handle the wastewater flow versus, say, Crescent, and what was proposed there to kind of, work within what the constraints that we have on us with the capacity issues? How does this differ from, at a high level, you don't have to go into all detail?
It doesn't.
Okay.
It's essentially the same. They are going into two separate basins, but during dry weather, the system is fully capable of handling this project.
And during wet weather?
During wet weather, the model does show that it is at capacity, slightly over capacity. We, to my knowledge, have only experienced one overflow in this basin, and that was during the Hurricane Helene back in September, and that was off of 6th Street.
So it was mentioned that the proposed wastewater flow for this project is 19,135 gallons per day.
Yes, sir.
How does that compare to what the Crescent was going
It's
to?
around half of the proposed flow from the Crescent project.
Okay, and I'm assuming that the proposed wastewater flow from this project is already accounted for in the calculations that we were discussing recently regarding asking for an additional 500,000 gallons per day from Charlotte Water.
Yes, sir.
So we need 500,000 gallons per day from Charlotte Water regardless of whether this project goes forward or not. Is that correct?
Correct.
So even if for some reason it did not go, we'd still need the 500,000.
Correct.
Do you have an estimate as to how much this project would pay in system development fees?
It is going to be anywhere between $98,000 to $63,000, depending on the size of the water meter.
So 63 to 98.
63 to 98, yes.
And that would, can you just explain system development fees, what they go towards for?
They go towards future capital projects, capital improvements in the water and sewer system.
Such as some of the I&I that we
Correct.
mentioned before.
I&I, line replacement, general upgrades to the system.
And in your professional opinion, you're supportive of this project and believe it can go forward?
Yes.
So a couple of these measures that you mentioned in your memo to the city manager, were these extra things that they have to do to kind of This one says, due to the location of proposed development, they will require a private sanitary sewer lift station, which will then pump through a private force main, connect to the public.
That's specific to their site.
Okay.
So they'll have an on-site private, lift station that will pump uphill, tie into the gravity gravity sewer main that was installed at the construction of the hospital, which borders between the hospital and Machete Top.
So that would have had to been done whether or not we had capacity issues. There's nothing, no extra measures that they're implementing to have to deal with that.
No.
Any additional questions for Jonathan?
Now, just to your point though, Jim, these impact fees will go to the INI, which will then help resolve and reduce a lot of this issue that we're seeing kind of as it pertains to capacity, right?
The system development fees won't necessarily go towards INI reduction, but staff is actively working on INI reduction based off of the findings from the sewer capacity study.
And when do they anticipate construction beginning for this project?
I believe they indicated 18 months
From
from
planning, or from
approval.
From approval, okay.
Is that timeline okay with you though, Jonathan, in regards to where we are currently?
Yes.
And even when you had mentioned it wet, the wet conditions, you said kind of close to the capacity. Do you have any risk or concerns there?
Based on my time with the city and what I'm hearing from staff, no.
Any follow-up? Thank you, Jonathan. I guess we'll call Reagan back briefly. Do you have any summation or just to answer any other questions?
Yeah, that's all. That is kind of our follow-up to the reason we asked for the continuation in May. So if there are no other questions about the sewer capacity, I'm happy to answer any other questions about the proposed conditional rezoning. And if there are none of those, then the project team does have some slides just to support, the timeline that Jonathan just mentioned, their timeline for construction, their anticipated flows, that sort of thing, if y'all would be interested in hearing that.
Any questions for Reagan about any non-sewer capacity related issues, which I think we were all, they're asking for, I think 5 areas of relief, but as I recall, we were all fine with those conditions last time. So,
Do we have any revenue projections from the occupancy tax?
Yes, those are actually included in the project team's slide deck, so if y'all are interested in hearing those as well, they've prepared those.
I think from the 2 current hotels, because most of that comes through the tourism development. I think it's close to a couple $100,000 per location.
I think that's
Yes.
what they were saying, 200,000 and maybe increased in future years.
Right, so the property tax will depend on the assessment of the property. And then the occupancy tax, I believe, is projected based on the size of the hotel to be around 120,000 per year additional. So the applicant can speak to that in a little bit more detail, but yes, those are included.
Any other questions for Reagan? Okay, so these slides that you referenced, are they the applicant slides or the yours?
Yes, they're the applicant
Okay.
slides.
All right, well, very good, because we do have one person signed up for public comment, and I believe that's the applicant, Bill Monroe. So I guess without further ado, we recognize Bill Monroe for the applicant presentation.
Bill Monroe, representing the Southern Benedictine Society Monastery at 100 Mount Holly Road. And I'm really just here in case you had any questions. There were a few questions the first time this came up about an old gravel yard area that was part of this track that had been grassed over and is fine now. But I'm here to answer any other questions you might have of the landowner.
Okay. Do you have some slides? I was told there were some slides.
Well, call on
Oh,
Lane Norman, who prepared this.
okay. Anything else for Bill? Okay, thank you. I guess we will see some slides.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. My name is Lane Norman, Warren Norman Company, 2700 Sullivan's Road, Rock Hill, South Carolina. this is the project that we talked about last time. I don't believe there's any comments on that. And so, speaking about the fees, as Jonathan mentioned, we're still in conversations around what staff wants to see from the size of the meter. Our design is based off of a 3-inch, and that was where the roughly 62,300 number came from. If we do increase to the 4-inch, due to various reasons, that's where that just shy of 100,000 number came from. The meter surcharge is just charged annually, part of that. The property taxes, so again, that is based on, the assessed value, so that was kind of to be determined. We gave you just a rough range based off of previous hotels. Not say it could go over, very doubtful it would go under, but it gives you a decent idea, based off of that. And then the hotel occupancy tax is another guess, I'd say. It's an educated guess. Most of the time our hotels will run, we try to keep them around 80% occupancy. You drive your room rate to kind of lessen that impact on your hotel. So I feel like a 75% occupancy is a very, very conservative number. So I would see that increasing. I know that our Home 2, that is also in Belmont, it runs substantially higher. It runs actually north of 85. So I think that both of those numbers hopefully answer your questions there, at least in some form.
Yeah, I would agree. I think both of our current hotels are about 85%.
Yep. So, any questions on that? Okay, so this graphic here we put together is more to kind of give you a graphic of kind of our thoughts around the sewer capacity. So as Jonathan mentioned, we're currently slated per design criteria at the roughly 19,000 gallons per day. This is 4 additional hotels, 3 of which we're involved with, 1 which the Hampton Montrose we're not involved with, but Bill is. And so this, we pulled roughly 6 months of water usages across the various properties, and the red line at the top gives you kind of that baseline design criteria number. So if you were to think about the residence inn that we're talking about today, that would be that 19,000 based on design criteria. And so as you see, most of the hotels don't ever reach that design criteria, so I don't foresee the residence inn being any different. The Home 2 is highlighted in orange there. It is probably the closest related, ironically, both of them in Belmont. Both of them are 107 rooms. Both of them are suites, and so they do have an increased design criteria of that. However, with that one, you can see that we stayed substantially lower than that. So you get about an average of, somewhere around 70, 75, depending on where you want to look, of that design criteria. So that would put, and again, I guess math, based on design criteria, us closer to the 13,000, 14,000 gallons per day, which hopefully is a little better news than 19, but did want to kind of note that. This is some of the math, if you have any questions based on what you're speaking into the graphic. So speaking to timeline, I know that came up. So the 18-month, I think, was more generic, based on kind of where we were a few months ago. And so our construction schedule is really around the 14 to 16 month-ish, depending on a few various factors. In this diagram here, you can see we're just putting in an October start time frame to kind of bleed this out to show you where we would expect a CO and going operational. That puts it sometime early year of 27. And this is just some of the graphics from previous presentation.
Do we have those revenue slides?
Do they have our slides?
I don't think so. We just got them today, so no.
Okay. Maybe we can get those out first.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So that is all the public comment that we have for this matter. So there being nothing else, I would entertain a motion to come out of public hearing.
Motion to come out of public hearing.
Second.
Motion made by Alex, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, the public hearing for this matter is closed. We now move on to item C3, consider approval of ordinance for ZA 2025-01 Residence Inn. So we have, yes, hello. Oh, very good. We have the ordinance. I will submit, I made one minor edit to what is in the packet, basically to indicate that the hearing took place not only on May 5th, but on August 4th as well. It's nothing substantive. So we are tasked with receiving the report. The planning board recommendation, which as you recall was unanimously in favor. The public comments, which we have received. And our options are to approve the ordinance as presented, approve as modified, or disapprove. And then once we do that, there's always that wonderful follow-up motion as well about the consistency findings. So any discussion or debate about the proposed ordinance?
It's pretty straightforward.
I don't have anything.
Okay. In that case, I would entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as presented.
Motion to approve as presented.
Motion made by Charlie, seconded by Jason. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. We also need a motion that this...
I will make a motion that it follows the following goals of the comprehensive land use plan. Land use, the proposed project encourages a healthy tax base and a mix of uses by providing diverse lodging choices in proximity to current and future retail services and employment centers. And it also checks the box for the economy. The proposed project helps to foster a vibrant economy with a diversified tax base for providing employment and commerce opportunities.
And the request is reasonable.
And it is reasonable and public.
All right, thank you. Motion made by Alex, seconded by Jason. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That also passes unanimously, so the rezone is approved. Congratulations. I know we commented when we opened the public hearing a few months ago, but we're all excited about this project. We think it'll be a good project. We just need to clear up some of the sewer issues with the capacity study, but we are looking forward to having a residence inn here in Belmont. Thank you. All right, moving on then to C4, retail strategies presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'll kind of kick this off while we have our representative here. Just a little bit of background, if you recall, back in 2024 during the City Council retreat, there was a discussion about economic development projects in Belmont, and you all directed staff to move forward in that process. So we issued a request for proposal towards the end of 2024. And on January 6, 2025, you all approved Retail Strategies as a consultant. Since this time, staff has been working with Retail Strategies, and they've done a lot of work on their side during the discovery phase. And so Joshua Davis, he's the portfolio director, he's here tonight for the first report on the market and recruitment efforts to date. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Appreciate it, Miles. Good afternoon, Council, Mayor Pro Tem. Appreciate you guys for allowing us to talk today. Just kind of give an additional backstory to our company and who we are and where we are in partnership. We started our partnership in February, where we had a chance to kind of start our initial data demographics research. Then we kind of pivoted to our initial boots on the ground, where we had a chance to analyze the market, meet our point of contacts in person for the first time, and then we started our full service recruitment after our 100-day discovery phase in May. So we're just about 2 months into full service recruitment. But again, I'm Joshua Davis. I serve as portfolio director from Retail Strategies for the City of Belmont. And today this will be a very high-level report to kind of give you guys a brief overview as to who we are, kind of our role in the process in our company. We'll give you guys a brief overview of our retail market analysis and overview, and then we'll kind of conclude it with the timeline of the deal, and we'll kick it off, end with Q&A. So you'll probably get familiar with these first two faces, myself and Zach Price, which is my right-hand man in the Carolinas, who helps on the recruitment side. Matt Yeager, Clay Corral, they kind of head our recruitment team, and then Lacey Beasley, who is our president of our company, Retail Strategies, who was very influential in the Carolinas, and then Scott Blankana, who's accompanied by us today, is our COO of the company. We're based out of Birmingham, Alabama. We've had a chance to work with about 1,000+ communities throughout the U.S. Myself and Zach, we work with just about 27 communities between North and South Carolina. Again, we've had a chance to work with Belmont now for about 2 months. We have 48 dedicated employees on the retail strategy side, and then we've had a chance to recruit over 1,200+ businesses throughout the U.S.
So you're not in the Upper Peninsula, though?
Not in the Upper Peninsula just yet, but we're headquartered out of Birmingham, Alabama. We have an office in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, another one in Starkville, Mississippi, then a flex base in Atlanta, Georgia.
Stark Vegas?
Stark Vegas. You know too much, Jim.
That's what a lot of people tell me.
Is that a lot?
But we've been doing this for quite some time on the retail strategy side. We started our company in 2011. The left side of this page is merely just an overview of the retailers we have connections with, who we try to give different retail opportunities to, not only in the Carolinas but throughout the U.S. On the right side of the page is kind of where we submit our flags and get connected with different retailers, recruiters, developers who are looking for different opportunities in the Carolinas. We have a chance to go to several different trade shows throughout the course of the year. ICSC and Retail Live is kind of our two trade shows that we like to go to throughout the year. We go to the show in our backyards, ICSC Charlotte every year, and then our flagship show is ICSC Las Vegas. That's every year in May as well. But we have several different other organizations that we're affiliated with, CCIM, ULI, and we have our president of our company, Lacey Beasley. She's on the board of trustees at ICSC as well. So kind of leading into what we do. We do a lot from the retail recruitment side. As your retail expert, we get a chance to come to the market on an annual basis, but we do a lot from our offices in Birmingham every year as well. As to getting engaged with different property owners, looking at different retail opportunities in the market, speaking the language for the retail recruiter, but also for the retail developers, retail side. On the same time, kind of wearing the hat to speak on from the city perspective as well. We're building trust-based relationships with different property owners as well. At the same time, giving different retail developers different opportunities to see chance for development outside the Charlotte MSA. You guys do a lot on the city side as well, so that's why we try to take as much off your plate as we can from the retail recruitment side. But we lean on you guys as far as kind of what we did today and putting together different stakeholder meetings, getting us connected with different property owners, different developers, brokers are already doing deals in the market, so we can kind of 10x their efforts to get some of those developments off the ground. Our partnership is a revolving door. We can't skip over any part of this process. That's why we start with a heavy emphasis on the market analysis, looking at different trade areas in the market, looking at different retail corridors, what developments as far as shopping centers, second generation space, inline space that we can kind of backfill, or if it's raw dirt, to see if we can put any developers in place to see if they want to take any opportunities in the Belmont market. But after all of that, we kind of pivoted to strategic planning, as to if there's a chance that we can work hand in hand with you guys at the city, and put together any incentives, whatever the case may be, is always what we want to do after the market analysis. And obviously, as you make your way around this picture on the right-hand side, is to save you guys time, experience. Again, we do a lot from our office in Birmingham, but again, at trade shows as well. We take all of this information from our market analysis to create different opportunities in the market. We always tell our clients with retail development to kind of pray for patience. These things don't happen overnight. If you see another restaurant or big development, 9 times out of 10 that didn't happen in 2 months or even 5 months. For what we do, the bigger the development, the longer in the process process these things take. But we really have a strong emphasis on that second where you see connect to where we're talking to different, tenant reps, real estate directors to see what areas of the market, whether that's North Carolina, South Carolina, they want to develop different stores. And these guys get together on an annual basis to look at different markets, whether they want to develop 25 to 100 stores throughout the year or over a course of a couple of years. We do everything in our power to put the city of Belmont in their plate to see if they want to do additional development. Again, whether that's talking to the local tenant reps, putting them engaged with different property owners, if there's already an existing development in the city of Belmont, we play matchmaker to where these guys are getting different opportunities to analyze different sites in the market. A lot of these deals, again, the larger the development, the longer some of these things takes, but a lot of these deals take anywhere between 18 and 36 months. That 3-month phase where these guys are analyzing data demographics for not only a market but for a site. Then 6 months to a year where these guys are actually looking at the site, doing site selection. Then when these guys get into the weeds, the financials, those things can take, or negotiation can take upwards of 2 years. But the unique thing about our partnership is, when you guys, over the course of a year or a couple of years, we're giving you, updates on an annual basis or quarterly basis as to where these guys are in the timeline, what sites they're analyzing. Obviously, we have to be redacted when we put these reports out because we don't want to step on any toes or kill any deals. But you guys are privy to this information as these developments are ongoing. So we get this question a lot: why should municipalities invest resources into retail? And simply put, because retail builds on retail. We partner with different cities to where we're starting from ground level, to where this ladder is, and we have other cities where we're starting from tier 3 or 4. But we kind of use this as a starting point, and so when we start looking at different markets or we start working for different clients in the Carolinas, it's not necessarily to say, hey, you guys are tier 2. We're trying to see if we can land tier 3 in the next 1 or 2 years, but simply put, we try to use this as almost like a landing zone or a firm starting point as to what prospects we want to start looking in the market. And obviously, when you think about retail, you think about jobs that's being created. Obviously, it's not going to be to the level of an industrial development, but these retailers, if you're talking about the flagship, stepping the ladder or the bottom tier, these things can create different jobs in the market and create a better way of life for the people in the city of Belmont. And obviously, we want to do everything we can to add those additional dollars to the tax base and create a better operational or profitable market. So we're not demographers by trade, but a lot of what we do is very driven by data and demographics. That's when we, come into the market for the first time and give you guys a updated data demographics package. And when we're talking to different retailers, we want to be able to check off as many boxes for these guys as we can on the front end. So when they have to go on the back end and get in front of different real estate directors or different committees, when they start throwing questions at them as far as about different sites or they need to get approval for any developments, we want to try to check off as many boxes on the front end. So that's when we look at different things like that, demographics overview. We're going to look at mobile data collection, looking at different retail gap analysis, and obviously the peer analysis that we'll talk about here in a second. So you guys are probably used to seeing the Belmont market from this perspective. This is your city limits. But retailers don't necessarily look at city limits or county limits as to when they're trying to make a decision on a market. What these guys are looking at it is from this perspective. They're trying to see where's the consumers from a 3, 5, 10 mile radius. What are the median household incomes, and then obviously how dense is the market. You guys are blessed to be outside of Charlotte, MSA, to where a lot of people in the city of Belmont are traveling to Charlotte and probably vice versa. So you guys are going to be very dense from a residential point of view. So a lot of the retailers that we talk to, if they're not privy about a sub-market in the Charlotte MSA, that's kind of where we put our consulting hat on from the city's perspective and to speak the language of these guys on the retail side to be able to analyze the market, for their best judgment to make a firm decision on a retail development. In using that, and again, you guys saw your city limits, we use mobile data collection to create a customized trade area. If you're like me, when you download an app or look at a different software, You're not scrolling your terms and conditions, you're just hitting the check mark and you move on to the next, to the next step in the process. That's great, we like it for what we do, I think retailers like it for what they do. But we use this information to create a customized trade area again. And if you look at some of the different variations of pinks and purples, that's showing where the percentage of the population is driving to this subject zone. And the subject in this slideshow, or in this slide, is the Walmart in the city of Belmont. So all the different various pinks and purples are where people in this specific trade area are traveling from to shop at that Walmart. Obviously, if we use different retailers in the Belmont market, whether it's the Harris Teeter or the Lowe's, these different graphics can be different. We use about 2 to 3 different retailers to be able to create a customized trade area. If you're looking at the Belmont's population from 16,000, I think it is right now, we create this customized trade area. I think to be able to better understand what a customized trade area is almost to rename it to consumer trade area. It's almost where you see the majority of the consumers traveling to the Belmont market. But we use this accompanied by the different data demographics to be able to give to different retailers. So if you're looking at what you guys are used to seeing from the city's population, we're looking at it from this level, based on the customized trade area, as to 118,000 as opposed to 16,000. And obviously we're always blessed to see a situation to where a market is growing over time. I think it creates a different scenario for us when we're able to pitch different markets to retailers that's growing over time.
Can you explain again how you get to that inflated figure from our current population?
Top right?
Yeah.
So it's the customized trade area. So we're looking at it from this point of view. You have some markets outside of Charlotte. You're going down to where where North Carolina, South Carolina meet, and you have a different percentage of population in Cramerton as well.
Right.
They're all traveling
Through Belmont.
Yeah. So that's the data demographics that we're
Capturing all that transient traffic.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm surprised it goes that far into Charlotte.
And it's putting all that into that larger population figure.
Yep.
Like you said, that's a customized trade area.
And I think to better understand it, if you look at it from consumer trade area, that's to see where your consumers are
Right.
coming from rather than customized trade area. And again, so in this, I don't want you guys to be alarmed by this number. This is the opportunity gap for that customized trade area as we were talking about. But this is the percentage of the population or the number of dollars being spent outside of the Belmont area. And our objective isn't to make this number go away, over the course of a couple of years, or if we get further along in our partnership. But as we do our job well and we land different retailers, whether it's a full service restaurant, fast casual, or even a grocer, to make this number be kind of less and less over time. But again, we're blessed and encouraged to be outside of a major metropolitan area in Charlotte, to where you guys will always have a percentage of population that will always travel to Gastonia or Charlotte to spend dollars in the area. So year over year, we do our boots on the ground tour. Again, we've been in the Belmont market now we've been in the Belmont market now this year twice. Usually it's a situation to where we're in the market at least one side of the year. We get to meet with our point of contacts, but we're looking at different opportunities as far as off-market sites, city-owned sites. If we get a chance to talk to any developers who are doing ongoing projects, we get a chance to talk to our point of contacts at the city to be able to create the best compelling or overarching story or scenario to tell different retailers or developers that we're talking to on a day-to-day basis. We're looking at different sites. Obviously we're just like any other retail developer. We want to look at the best site in the market, but all the time that's not necessarily the case. But in a perfect world, we're looking at sites with great signage visibility. Obviously adequate amount of parking if you're talking about a full service restaurant. Where you can sit in for a while, you can park outside, wherever the case may be. Those guys are looking at space where they can develop or second generation space with about 100 to 150 parking spaces. We're looking at sites with good access, co-tenancy, and obviously traffic drives retail. again, we get a chance to go to several different trade shows throughout the year. Obviously, ICSC is our flagship show that we go to every year. One being, obviously, like I mentioned, in Charlotte, and then the other one being ICSC Las Vegas. But a lot of these guys we've already built trust-based relationships with. Again, whether it's tenant reps, franchisees, brokers, they're looking at us to give them different opportunities in sub-markets, tertiary markets, whatever the case may be. A lot of these guys may be privy about the Belmont market, but may be looking for different opportunities outside of Charlotte. So that's kind of where we align with these guys, to where we already have a trust-based relationship with them. So they're not, it's not outside of their scope to, trust us to give them different opportunities for development in the Belmont market. Go through this real quick. This is a different slide. And if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than willing to answer them now.
Questions?
So would it be part of your business to collaborate with, say, county economic development, and or state, especially with like grants, local incentives, things like that?
We get that question a lot. I mean, it kind of depends on the retailer. If we tee up, let's say, retailer A, they find a site to where they want to backfill or develop, but they need to fill that line item on their budget as to getting over the hump in their financials. Sometimes we get with the city or the county, not all the time the state, to see if there's any grants or funding or locals incentives to get a project off the ground. So we deal with that a lot. We don't necessarily tell our point of contacts to always pull that lever, but if it's a situation to where it's amongst the group. If it's a yes amongst the group, and if it will add to the tax base, create jobs, if it's a best case scenario for the city, I would probably say that it's best case to have a meeting of the minds to see if that's a profit situation to where you guys want to pull that lever. But we never encourage you guys to immediately jump to that if it's not beneficial. But we do get that question a lot.
Any other questions?
So, I guess, what's the next steps, right? So I think this is great information and stuff, but like, how do we go from here? Because if I remember the origin of this, because I asked for this to be on our agenda back during the retreat, we were looking at Wilkinson Boulevard and trying to understand how can we as a council move forward with trying to promote attracting new businesses, retail and such, for our gateway into the city. A long time ago, there used to be Build a Better Boulevard, but that has since gone to the wayside. So Belmont at the time, and I think currently, still thinks that maybe we should do something ourselves. So what's the next step? So as far as scoping and we've already identified the area, where do we go from here, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, so we'll back up just a little bit. When we start our partnership, we do a deep dive into the data demographics. Obviously, then we take that, then we bring it to the city of Belmont, where we do our initial boots on the ground. We spend about 2 hours looking at different opportunities in the market. We meet with our point of contacts. We're looking at different, whether it's retail corridors, whatever the case may be. We spend about 100 days analyzing the Belmont market, and then we put together our retail recruitment plan, which that's about an hour and a half presentations where we present all of our findings. In May, we were starting our full service recruitment. So now we've been recruiting for the city of Belmont for about 2 months. I will say there will be a heavy emphasis on that Wilkinson Boulevard, just obviously because if you look at different opportunities for hiring better use or redevelop second generation space, that's going to be a corridor that we spend a lot of time on. But obviously, as opposed to that, we're also going to spend some time with some approved developments as well, and kind of looking at different opportunities for backfilling different shopping center space, whatever the case may be. But that's a situation to where I think we were privy to come into our partnership while you guys were going through the comp plan to kind of see if there was any overlap to use some of the information to better suit for what we do. So I think now that we're in the lease of kind of understanding different property owners on that corridor and analyzing what retail interest is on that corridor, I think we're able to make a better judgment as to who's a better fit where and what property owners are willing to sell for higher and better use.
And this is not the only meeting you have presented at today, is that correct?
That is true. That is true.
You had a meeting earlier with various other stakeholders, so who did you meet with and how did it go?
So we met with various stakeholders, one of which was, I think the only one here tonight is Bill Monroe. We met with different other brokers, developers that's doing ongoing deals in the Belmont market. I think it's always best case scenario for what we do, because obviously, it's a two-way street in our partnership. We want to do a lot from, our office in Birmingham where we're in the market, but if we can ever lean on our point of contacts with the cities to set up different stakeholder meetings like that, to take off about 3 months in our recruitment for the city of Belmont, it's always best case scenario. We can do all of that, task on our own, but nothing goes, further like, facilitating the connection from people that's already trusted with some of the stakeholders in the city of Belmont, as opposed to just us from an outside consultant point of view, reaching out to some of these guys. So that meeting went well today, and I think it's a situation to where we'll use some of those contacts going forward.
Very good.
Do you want to know the specific folks that showed, or do we invite it?
I mean,
Yeah, sure, that'd be helpful.
Yeah. So from the list of people that we invited, pictures of it. So we invited, from like the colleges, we had Belmont Ivy College, and Gaston College, that were invited. For the, real estate brokers, Mecca Commercial Real Estate, was invited. Real estate owners, Belmont Land and Investment, Bauer Trouse, for like, given that he's a local owner and developer in the downtown area. Commercial developers, we had Rayleigh Miller Properties, McLean Development, Belmont Ivy College, land manager, Bill Monroe. We invited Pulte, their person, the VP of Land Management, Chamber of Commerce, Montcross Area Chamber, the GBA. We invited Gaston County Economic Development Commission, and industry. We invited Parkdale Mills, Spartan Dyers, Duke Energy, and then we invited Botanical Gardens, Daniel Stoke Conservancy, of course the Catawba River Keeper with John Searby. The folks that were present, Bob Clay, he came, representing Mecca, Bill Monroe, like Joshua mentioned, representing Abbey, Belmont Land Investment. I'm drawing a blank on the female's name who works for
Jeff.
Yes, who works for Corstarpin, that's correct. McLean, we had Steve Henshaw, he attended. Donnie Hicks attended from the Economic Development Commission. John Searby, and he brought his retail person with him from Daniel Stowe. I'm probably missing someone, but that's pretty much the list of the folks. We had, I think, seven or eight probably representatives from different places that showed up.
And I'm assuming it would behoove us to get our ducks in a row on the sewer issues, because I don't think a lot of the contacts that you're going to be making and partnerships you're trying to form are going to want to sort of, if there's uncertainty, I don't know if they're going to want to go down to close a deal. Would that be a proper assumption?
That would be great. And I do think that that's already a situation to where you guys are already working on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the best case for us is, whether there is an update to where you guys are on the timeline, anything that you're putting into, mitigating that issue. It's always great for us when we're talking to these guys. We don't want to create a situation to where we're pitching them on a specific side and then we get into the weeds of it and they don't have the sewer capacity. So, I think it's always a situation to where, again, it's a two-way street. The more information that you guys can feed us, the better judgment that we can make, to put some of those plays in play.
Yeah, we had a discussion on that as far as like our comp plan, and so we know already, some of the areas that are constrained with sewer. We didn't want Retail Strategies to be the first person you hear from, so that's coming up in September when the comp plan is updated, but they're going to be kept in the loop. We've actually had that conversation with Retail Strategies that there's more information to come. You need to fold that into your marketing campaign when you send that out to everyone. We identified 74 corridor. There was also, cities that we've kind of identified, or retail strategies identified, help us identify through the process. And so they have all that data. And the way I think about it, it's almost like a layered approach. You got a comp plan, then you got a layer on top of it for sewer and transportation, and then on top of that, you've got the people that can go out and find the people that come in and do that for us. And so
I do think that's a good idea. A lot of the developments we have approved with commercial components, we tout the commercial component and how many square feet of commercial, and then it's like, well, when they build it, it's like, well, have you filled the well, we're still waiting. Well, we hope we get. So I think it's a good idea to get some of that filled up and work on partnerships with those projects as well.
yeah, that's what I think. That was one of the conversations today too. Was that you have the folks out there, the developers that have the land and they know what they need to do. We're going to use retail strategies as that conduit. They don't have to come through us to talk to those folks like McLean or whoever. They can go directly to them. McLean can go directly to retail strategies at this point. It's not like me and Kevin and Cassidy have to be in the middle all the time. So that was a good point today. We can use those folks.
That was a question I had, because I guess part of your engagement here is the market analysis, is that complete now, or you're still on?
The market analysis is complete. The only thing that will change on an annual basis is the data demographics that we provide to the city of Belmont, and then the data demographics that we provide to different retail developers looking at the market.
And that'll be kind of the next phase as we would enter into an engagement, like an ongoing partnership. Is that right, or has that already been?
You're talking about the contract with retail strategies? Yeah, so the way the contract's kind of structured is a 3-year contract. We pay them annually, of course, but it's for a 3-year period just because it takes that long, like you saw previously. It takes that long to get somebody in place, but yeah, it could be an ongoing relationship.
And so if we had developers or property owners that want to, let's say in 74 Corridor, because that was the impetus for doing this,
Right.
there certainly have opportunities around the city, right? But that was certainly one that was our focus. And I appreciate staff really going through this process and bringing you.
No,
guys-
absolutely. And look, and if there's ever a situation to where you guys want to put us in connection with any, local landowners or other developers that's looking to do deals in the market, we always encourage that.
Yeah, because they would have to approach the city if they didn't know any about it, about these guys. But we want that collaboration to be open.
Absolutely.
Transparent. Yeah.
Very good. Anything else? Well, thank you, Joshua.
I appreciate you.
Thank you. Yep. All right. Moving along then, that brings us to item C5, public hearing for TA 2025-02 continued, request to allow ABC package store use in additional zoning districts beyond the highway commercial district. Again, we previously went into the public hearing, so we don't need a motion to go in. And to present for staff, we have Rachel Rothie. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, you got it right. Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. All right, so staff presented this draft text amendment at the July 7 meeting with the overarching goal of the original request being to classify ABC stores as retail commercial and therefore permitted anywhere retail commercial is permitted. So NCC, downtown, HCRC, and T&D. So after discussion, council indicated to staff that they did not wish to see ABC stores as retail commercial. Council was comfortable with the 2 definitions that staff had created, so ABC store and beer and wine store, and allowing only the ABC store use in other commercial areas with the exception of downtown district, subject to council approval. Okay. So as council directed, staff kept the 2 definitions and added ABC store as an allowed use to NCC, RC, and T&D subject to council approval. The proposed changes would not require additional council approval for ABC stores in highway commercial. It would remain as currently written since it's already permitted in that district. Staff heard y'all. I know at the last meeting, the big takeaway was that council wanted an option for additional review. So there are two, I guess, sort of avenues that provide that sort of review. So it's the special use permit route and conditional zoning. So the SUP process, that is a quasi-judicial process, and that allows y'all to attach fair and reasonable conditions which support the findings. So findings are sort of laid out here, that the use meets all the specifications of the code, that it's both visually and functionally compatible with the area, it's not going to endanger the public health or safety, and it's not going to damage surrounding property values. So this option, the SUP option, is recommended by staff to address the site-specific concerns voiced by council, allowing for additional oversight while not excluding parcels that may not meet the minimum lot size required to rezone to a conditional district. Conditional zoning, that is another mechanism which can provide council oversight. However, staff felt that the SUP process seemed to better align with council's concerns, so safety and property values. And we also found that it better aligns with how the code looks at other uses and is consistent with other uses that require special consideration.
Well, in truth and fact, there was an issue with the conditional zoning, was there not, regarding the size of the property, in that, say, take for example traditional neighborhood development, which I believe the underlying zoning where they envisioned putting the new ABC store, and doing a conditional zoning would require a minimum area of 30 acres.
That's correct.
And I'm assuming this ABC store is not going to be 30 acres.
Yeah, that's correct. It would leave out a lot of potential options.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for bringing that up. So implications for this, so if the code is changed, ABC stores will be allowed subject to a special use permit in the following districts. So neighborhood center commercial, traditional neighborhood development, and rural commercial. And then beer and wine being allowed in highway commercial, and then of course ABC stores will continue to be permitted in HC.
Without a special use permit.
That's correct, without a special use permit, as it is now. So I know the last time that we talked, council mentioned wanting to see a map of where the affected districts are located. So, we can see the highway commercial area there in blue clustered along Wilkinson. And then we see a few pockets of traditional neighborhood development that are dispersed around the city. And then the area that they were hoping to locate is sort of that central area, which is zone T and D, which contains the Belmont Town Center. And then once again, comprehensive plan consistency. We sort of went over this a bit last time related to goal 1 for land use and goal 2 economy, that the proposed amendment is consistent with those two. I don't know what happened to the last slide, the city council action slide. So to receive the report, the planning board recommendation, and public comment. So there are a few options in front of y'all. Motion to approve as presented, approve as modified, or disapprove. And then the two findings required. Text amendment is a reasonable request and in the public interest. And it's consistent with the goals of the comprehensive plan. So in the areas of land use and economy. I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all.
Well, just to be clear, and I believe we will hear from, the applicant is the ABC board itself, is that correct?
That's correct, yes,
It's a
sir.
component of this text amendment.
That's correct.
and I believe a representative is signed up to speak, but as I understand it from what was delivered to us, the applicant would like us to consider the initial request, which was simply to, can you refresh our recollections to the initial
Yes.
request?
So the initial request is to strike ABC Package Store from HC, rename it just to ABC Store, which therefore classifies it as retail commercial. That is sort of the path of least resistance for them, and I almost sort of can't blame them for asking. And then we took y'all's direction, so that's also what is before you tonight as well to consider.
Okay, so let me frame it this way, maybe to start the discussion.
Yes.
Let's say that the ABC board initiates the process of locating this new ABC store in the Belmont Town Center tomorrow. Can you walk us through what the process would look like under each alternative? Under the, how would they proceed? What would council's involvement be under
Sure.
the initial request as presented last month? And what would the process look like under the council-directed amendment that is up for consideration here?
Sure, that's a good question. So if they proceeded as they asked last time, the initial request, there wouldn't be any council involvement. That property has already been zoned TND CD, right? The conditional. So, which is almost sort of like its own little mini zoning ordinance for that area. So it lays out all of the permitted uses. So one of them being retail commercial. So if it is classified as retail commercial, they they would have to go through our department, the planning department, and go through the zoning process.
Assuming everything else being equal and
Yes.
they don't have to ask for any relief.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct. So then it would be, I guess, what you would call principally permitted.
Subject to now, they are, as an ABC store, they are subject to state regulation,
Absolutely.
regardless of what our land development.
That's correct. That's correct. So that's the one avenue that they're asking for. And then the second being, in order for the applicant to move forward with the one that is council-directed action, the proposed use must first be allowed in the corresponding base district. So, meaning this now new use, ABC store, will need to be added to the list of permitted uses in T&D. Conditional district may be used to satisfy an SUP requirement when additional relief is requested. So the next step for them would be to amend the existing, so they would come back, to amend the existing conditional zoning that's on that property, and add that specific use, ABC store, as an allowed use. And then at that time, council could place any conditions or restrictions.
Would that be via a special use permit or we haven't even gotten to the special use
No,
permit?
well,
You're talking about
they
the text
wouldn't,
amendment route, right?
I'm sorry?
You're talking about the text amendment route.
Yes, so if they move forward with how staff received direction from y'all last month, meaning you wanted some council oversight in that, it would come back because we would need to go ahead and add that new use to that conditional district.
And that's independent of the special use permit?
Yes.
Then, after we did that, then they'd have to apply for special?
No, they wouldn't need to do a special use permit. This would cover
This
that.
would allow it.
Okay.
Mhm,
Oh, I see.
mhm.
Okay.
If we didn't pass the text amendment, then we could pursue the special use permit, right, to get to the same
No,
place.
there'd be no special, if we didn't pass a text amendment, there'd be no special use permit, because we're only creating a special use permit by this text amendment.
That's correct.
I see. Okay.
That's correct.
So let me ask, and this would be a question, I think, more for parks. When the existing ABC store was approved, or it's obviously located where it is on Wilkinson Boulevard there. How did that come about? Was there any council hearing for any zoning hearing, that proposal to locate an ABC store at this address in Wilkinson, or how did that come about?
My recollection, there was no special council hearing. I believe it was NHC allowed by right.
Okay.
It was probably what we're doing today, right? They allowed the ABC store, but then they had to decide how that needed to be written in the text, and they probably predetermined that they wanted to limit it to just the highway commercial, so it didn't need to come back to them, because they just put it in the text. I wasn't there.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't,
Exactly what happened.
I don't know if it was
It
even,
might have already been in there.
might have
Might have
already
already been
been,
in there.
from who knows when. Because I don't remember any sort of action like that in the, when would this have come up?
2017,
It was before my time on council, but I was going to meetings, and I don't remember anything like that, but, I was just curious. Any questions for Rachel?
Rachel, could you go back to that map, that zoning map? Before that, next one. Yeah. You would- I suppose you can blow that up. So that big TND section right there in the central part of the map there, is that Belmont Town Center?
I think Belmont Town
It's
Center
further
is
south.
that
Further
one
south.
here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right, because that kind of neighbors downtown,
Yeah.
the red. And so what the applicant is asking is that this be a permitted use in TND, which in that map would essentially include all of those orange areas, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And is that Del Webb further west? Is that the Del Webb? I'm guessing?
Eagle Park.
Eagle Park, okay.
One question.
Build an ABC store in Eagle Park.
Well, but I think, this one, well, I won't comment on that. But, it's not like, this is a strange one, because, we've talked about how when you do zonings, you're supposed to, look at the uses, all uses that are allowed. You're not supposed to look specifically at any particular application. Is that called spot zoning parks, I believe? But here it's very, because there's only one there's one ABC store. They're looking to add one more, but that, I'm assuming, would be it. So it's hard to separate that specific proposed use and application versus the zoning, because depending on which way we go, the zoning could be the determination of what is going to happen for all intents and purposes. But I just think that you have to remember that we've got the state regulations also playing a part here, that you're not going to potentially, here we're going to have an ABC store pop up in Eagle Park, and here's one in Del Webb, because, that's what it's like. You could say a grocery store. Well, hey, grocery stores are allowed here, let's have another grocery store. There's more to it than that, because the state's going to be there, and the state's not going to let them just put an ABC store in every street corner.
Sure, and just, I doubt the market supports it,
Mhm.
you know.
Well, even if it did,
Yeah.
you've got state regulations
That's
that
very true.
are over and above and separate from, and we might hear some from that, perhaps from the applicant, of what's going on with the land development code. So it's not like, they've indicated where they want to put it.
Mhm.
It's not like, all right, there's going to be one there, but hey, it's going to be allowed in neighborhood center commercial, so there could be another one down here, and there could be another.
Well, wasn't that part of the previous discussion, is we wanted to kind of get some color from the state about, what are the stipulations,
Mhm.
the radius, and
Yes.
proximity to schools and things like that. Do we have that information?
The applicant might be
Yeah, I was
able
gonna say
to
that.
speak to that. Yeah.
By the way, I guess on that map, McLean has a portion of T&D as well, doesn't it?
The green area.
Yeah, I think it's neighborhood center
Oh,
commercial.
so it's NCC?
Yeah.
Okay.
But, I mean, that would be the same principle,
Yeah.
Depending on how
Right, it's
we.
also included, yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions for Rachel, or shall we hear from the applicant? All right, we have one person signed up for public comment. I believe it's the applicant, Brian Burns.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
My name is Brian Burns, 240 Hawthorne Park Avenue. I'm the past chairman of the Belmont ABC Board. I'm here tonight because Jonathan Wilson, the current chairman, is on vacation. He asked me to come by and speak to you all. We are obviously asking for, the zoning approval. Whether it's the way we have presented it, or if there's some nuance, I'm sure there's some way we can work together to get this taken care of. And I just wanted to maybe, I don't know if Jonathan or Dan has spoken to, how it is we came to this location and another store. As board members, our sole purpose is to raise revenue for the town of Belmont through the sales of Gardner's Liquors. Period end. And we, about 2-3 years ago, realized with the development down South Point Road, Del Webb, there's an opportunity there for us to expand. When I first came on the board 7 years ago, we weren't talking about expanding. We were just trying to make a payment. And the state was telling us we weren't going to do more than $1 million a year. Last year we did $6 million. And we think we can do more than that. And we think we can capture the market that we miss with people that turn left down near Nichols or don't make it as far up to our store. And so through our discussions, we felt that, and through our consultants, felt that the town center place is the location for us, just by capturing that market. And we also look at the revenue we will generate from there. Those people will have an option, and we think the option will be Belmont. If we don't do this, those people are going to buy liquor. They're not going to buy it from us. They're going to buy it from the Crampton store right down the road. And so you just have to weigh, are you willing to give up that income to Crampton when it's something that we can very easily capture? And we feel real strongly about that. Now, I know there's been some question as to optics, and we thought about that too. At that time I had kids in high school, and the way we rationaled it here was, they sell beer and wine at Harris Teeter. To us, it's two sides of the same coin. The only difference is at Harris Teeter, you have 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds selling that. The ABC store, you have adults. It's against the law for anyone under 21 to go in that store. And we have trained people, that do a very good job of making sure that no one underage buys alcohol. It's something we take very seriously. So we,
They wouldn't even be allowed in.
they're not allowed in. They're not allowed in.
And I'm sure we're about to hear, again, about various youths congregating in the Harris Teeter, and they wouldn't even be able to hang, they're not even coming in.
Right. You typically have an officer at at least a lot of the hours, you have the officer.
So we do on weekends, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I spoke with Bill this week, and, I think we would even, with approval and opening, I could easily see us for several months having someone there every day, just making sure.
Yeah,
that
set the standard.
Yes, to make sure, that A, no one's going in there, and B, they know that there's law enforcement there, and that, they just need to stay out. So, but we feel real confident that this is the right move for us, for you all, for the city. We're sitting on about $350,000, $400,000 just ready to go, and that's income for the city. We're
some of which would be used for alcohol education.
Yes, absolutely. The
initiatives.
same parameters
Yes.
that the state dictates how we spend our money. I mean, we don't have a choice. I mean, it's going to the police departments, going to alcohol education, it's coming here, so, yes, sir.
Can you speak to, because I know there was some concern about the proximity to the schools on South Point Road at this particular location.
50 feet,
Okay, so that's a statewide standard.
that's the threshold, 50 feet. It's good.
And what about in terms of like market saturation, right? I mean, when we talk about the idea of that this were approved in each of these
Sure.
districts, I mean, the demographics aren't going to support 5 stores in Belmont. So can you speak to?
Well, first of all, the state has to approve it.
Right.
So they're gonna look at it too. Obviously, they're also in the business of selling liquor. I don't see that as even being viable. Because when our consultants came back to us, really, it was the only place, just, it looked the same data that the retail strategies people, if we had the same data.
Sure.
And it just
So, I
shows.
mean, are there any rules of thumb? I'm sorry, just to kind of.
No. I
Okay.
mean, we could if we wanted to.
Radius.
But you gotta support it.
Radius to existing stores or?
No. Not that I know of. But you still have to be able to support.
Sure.
So,
Not
in theory, you could,
Yeah.
but would you want to? No.
Right.
I don't see that. I don't see that.
Now, I believe y'all were envisioning that perhaps there might be some upcoming issues with the current location due to the I-85 widening project, which might make it more difficult to access that store.
Well, that is a concern, but I think we're still on the correct side of the highway, if you know what I mean, from people will get off at that exit and may still make that right turn. I think we're still in the great location there. I don't see us leaving that location ever. I just don't.
From what I understand about the proposed project, this would not be a standalone store, right? We're looking at a multi-tenant building at that location?
I don't know. Bill, can you?
Yes. Right.
So-
We're gonna take like 4,000-ish, 7,200, just depending on what the architects come back with.
So 7,200 is the structure that's being proposed for that whole parcel there?
That's correct.
And that would be the vacant parcel sort of across from Hungry Howie's.
Hang on.
I'm not familiar with
All right,
that, that part.
Delay that question, sorry.
Is it,
Sorry.
so are you saying 7,200, 2 buildings, 7,200 square feet each, roughly?
No, yes, approximately 7,000 to 8,000 square feet, 2 buildings.
I'm sorry, in total between the two or each?
Rayleigh Miller's gonna, the plan that was approved 2 years ago, 3 years ago, was 2 separate buildings, each 7,000 to 8,000.
Got it, thank you.
So, any other questions or insight I can give you? I like the 30-acre superstore.
They want to kind of-
Before the thrift store went in.
One question I had, if I understand correctly from the material, you all said you'd be willing to go forward with your original request minus the downtown district. How do we accomplish that, though? If we're, based on what we're doing, if we're just removing it from highway commercial and defining it as retail commercial, if retail commercial is otherwise permitted in downtown district, how would we be able to otherwise exclude it from that district, as the applicant itself has conceded they're willing to do?
Hang on a second. I'm confident that between myself and Reagan, we can come up with that tonight. We probably would just add a note. We probably would just add a note in that section saying that it's not permitted in the downtown. And
Okay.
I think that would cover it.
Here comes Ray.
To just clarify, so you're talking about how we would move the first proposal forward,
Since the
Allowing
applicant would prefer that
essentially
we,
a by right
Mhm.
approval.
But they have
restricting it from
conceded,
downtown
right,
district.
that they're willing to forego downtown district.
Sure,
So how do we exclude it from just downtown district but allow it in the other ones?
Absolutely. So based on the way the two different amendments are written, because the first one relies on lumping ABC store in with other types of retail commercial, essentially wherever retail commercial is allowed, an ABC store would be allowed. We wouldn't be able to distinguish or kind of take it out of downtown district that way. So the easiest way forward, in my opinion, would be to remove the requirement for a special use permit from what's proposed tonight. And so that would allow us to restrict ABC store from downtown district. We wouldn't just lump it in with retail commercial. We'd still define it as its own use. And we could specify the specific districts where that would be allowed. But if you're looking to allow
I
that
see.
by right approval, taking out the special use permit would be, I think, the
So in your estimation, that would accomplish the same goal as the applicant would like. We take out special use permit, any conditional, we just say it's got its own definition, separate from beer and wine, it's allowed in highway commercial, it's allowed in
T&D.
T&D, NCC, and rural. Okay.
Right.
By right? You know, we cross out the footnote that says subject to special use permit. Yeah, we just.
Exactly.
Would there be by right in those designations?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that to accomplish,
So that's,
exclude
yeah.
to
and so-
exclude the downtown district.
Right.
Right, so that's the question that would be before.
Which is the same result that would obtain under the original proposal, except we want to knock out downtown district.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right.
Can we maybe just have Chief,
Well,
I know Corky's out,
yes.
but Chief, would you mind just coming up for a few seconds? So your department, you guys benefit from the sale of the ABC, right? It goes towards the education, at some point I believe it helped out with the DUI programs as well. I mean, what's y'all's thoughts? You were also running school resource officers, so what's your thought with kind of how you guys are targeting the program in the community with this being right across the street from South Point High School?
I can speak on the ABC store that we have right now. We've not had any major issues, it's just been very minor issues. We do have off-duty there as well, so, I can't think, just thinking back, I don't think of any major issues up here at this ABC store.
And even without a school across the street, do you have much occasion of minors trying to come in the store that you?
I don't think
Are
we
they
do.
brazen enough to?
We really don't.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Belmont Abbey kids, I think, if that, yeah. But
Just curious.
we just don't.
I personally don't foresee any problem with the school kids coming over there doing that.
Would the police department be open, I guess? Brian mentioned something about having an officer there probably a little bit more frequently. Is that something I guess we could accommodate
For the first.
for the first couple of months or so?
Just like after
I
school
think
hours,
we'd be
right?
willing to pay for it. I mean, that's an off-duty type deal. I mean, I think, yeah, I think that would be not unreasonable. Almost if you would have to do it, I think, just to make sure you lay down the law early.
Yeah.
I knew the Cramerton one, I always see a Cramerton officer at that, or an officer's car there.
Yeah, they try to keep a car there most of the time, so.
I was just curious, I just wanted y'all's, the police department's feedback on this. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anything else?
Did the consultant identify any other locations in Belmont, or just that one in the town center?
That was, based on the heat map of population growth, that was really it. It just really was. I had just personally thought maybe North Belmont, up near the food line up there, but the heat map didn't support.
I would assume similar for the location down by McLean.
Yeah.
I know some thought was given to that.
Well, I think the one with that is you could go right across the border,
Yeah.
particularly
Right.
South Carolina, where
Right.
it's a little bit
Yeah.
cheaper. And then you've got Cramerton,
Right.
it's just
Yeah.
right up the street.
And what we're trying to capture is everyone turning left, going down South Point Road, or going across the street going to Del Webb. That's really who we're after, just trying to get those people on the way home like we do currently, as people head west down the boulevard.
And maybe it's a timing thing, Brian, but did you guys discuss like the potential commercial areas that's gonna be coming through with Del Webb whenever that's completely built out and?
It just seemed to be on the wrong side of the road, if you think about it. It's just it's the location. It's the location, at the end of the day, for us.
I would, assume.
One point of curiosity.
Okay.
I think I've often heard this, the tax on liquor sales in South Carolina, is it less than ours in North Carolina?
That I don't know.
Just curious, like when you talk about folks choosing to go across the border, if it's close to where they
I
live,
don't know.
if there's a financial incentive.
I think a lot of it has to do with pricing.
Yeah.
Because we're a price control state, whereas South Carolina isn't. So we are mandated by the state what we can charge, period end. Whereas in South Carolina.
Cause they've got like Frugal and Doodles where it's like
Right.
wholesale.
Yeah, they have sales.
Yeah.
But if you put allocated liquor, a bottle of Blanton's there might run you $300, where if you can find it in our store, it's $85.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think we're confusing a little bit with the public comments versus the applicant, because Brian is no longer on board.
Right.
After a good 6 years, he is the one who did a lot of these setups, so just for clarification.
Okay, thank you.
And a couple of the questions might be able to give you a little bit more information.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm all the help you need.
All right. Well, I'll segue to Seth then, if that's fine. I apologize for misunderstanding.
Oh, that's okay.
Is there any specific questions you wanted to address with further information?
Oh, clarification for the Del Webb location, that is within a mile of the Cramerton store and would not be allowed by the state, is what the expectation is.
So there is some.
So there is one. What's the bar? Where can you not, within a radius?
There is not a hard line like 50 feet, that if you, at the state level, alcohol consumption is flat and actually going down a little bit. Belmont is seeing 4% growth in the past year. This past month, we got 12%. That is some. Well, there's two reasons.
For driving everyone to.
It's not even the holidays yet.
One of the big reasons is how the store is managed. And surprisingly, people come to Belmont, and we're getting I-85 traffic that would go other places. The other thing, 1 year ago, the state changed the law, so instead of having to go to a specific ABC store, people with liquor licenses can go anywhere within the county. And we have been a massive beneficiary of that because of how well our store performs, okay? We saw about 30% growth in what they call mixed beverage sales in the last year. That's not gonna change with the new store. What we're really hoping is, as Brian was explaining, to capture the growth that would otherwise go to South Carolina or, everything that's happening on the peninsula.
Any other questions for Seth? Okay. Any further presentation or comments as the applicant?
I wish the zoning was different and appreciate how the challenges with that, but given the zoning the Belmont has today, I think this is fairly straightforward. It'd be nice to still just point to you in the packet request exactly, hard line requirements. The state doesn't do that. Right now, they are getting many more applications than they would approve. We have a confidence just from the volume in our growth that, it would still be okay. seeing flat growth, they are not interested, as we understand at the state level, to open it up for more growth, that really when there's, alcohol sales are flat, because they don't want non-performing stores and locations. And unfortunately, that's the business side that really is driving it more than, population density, that kind of stuff.
And I assume as the applicant, you would be okay, as we discussed, if sort of modifying, doing a hybrid of both proposals in order to, you're willing not to include it in downtown district, so you're all
Very
right.
comfortable with that. The special use permit, just for everyone's knowledge, right? We would be okay with that, except it adds 3 months or multiple months to the process that, and, time and cost, that otherwise would go back to the city.
Understood. All right. Unless there's anything else, we thank the applicant and the former applicant. Who ended up bearing the brunt of the questions, but still very informative.
Brian just keeps getting pulled back into
I
it.
do. I expect my stipend too.
All right, thank you very much. I think it would be appropriate to have a motion to come out of public hearing.
Motion to come out of public hearing.
Motion made by Alex, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We are out of public hearing. So that brings us to item C6. Consider approval of TA 2025-02, request to allow ABC package store use in additional zoning districts beyond the highway commercial district. So, having heard all of that, what do we think? I mean, I personally, based on how the history of what happened with the previous store, how that was approved, all the different considerations that come from the state, and trying to, all the safeguards that are in place, trying to make things efficient and conducive to the benefit of the city, I would be in favor of sort of a hybrid, which would be taking from the council proposal, the specific zoning districts in which it's permitted, but then eliminating the special use permit requirement.
Which, just to be clear, is excluding downtown.
Correct. As requested by council and as stipulated by the applicant. Thoughts?
I think the biggest two factors for me, I have a level of comfort tonight after hearing from not only the ABC board and the applicant, but also Assistant Chief Pullen, and the measures that the ABC store itself would be willing to implement to ensure security at this location. I know it's not ideal having that close proximity to the school, but the other factor for me is people are going to buy. They're going to buy. They're going to go to Cramerton. They're going to go to South Carolina. And if we have the controls in place, much more so, frankly, than the merchant next door.
Yes.
Right. I guess I don't have the pause that I initially had with this. I get comfortable with it based on what I've heard tonight.
Alex?
I agree. I think, Brian's right. At the end of the day, you can walk across the street and get, just as, I guess intoxicated or so from something out of Harris Teeter than you can from the ABC store. And again, what Arthur said, or Assistant Chief of Police said, we haven't had any issues. I'm not saying we stipulate it, but I would hope that we do have maybe an off-duty officer or an officer at the store. Not saying that we're trying to dictate that, but that would, add to the level of comfortability and maybe even might help for the residents as well. If you see a Belmont police officer's car right outside there, because again, the location, the optics is what's tough on this, right?
Understood.
But alcohol is being sold right across the street as well, beer and wine. And to Brian's point, maybe college kids, high schoolers, everyone's selling it to each other or something, as opposed to more of a kind of a locked up kind of establishment. So it's not most ideal, but I understand where this is coming from. But I do not want this in downtown, so I think that's particularly important to keep it out of the downtown district.
Very good. Sounds like we were all in agreement, so I would entertain.
What's the motion?
I guess it would be to approve as modified with the definitional model of the council-directed request, except removing the special use permit requirement. Does that make sense to everyone? Oh.
So
Does it make sense to you, Mr. Moore?
Rephrase it.
All right. Thank you. So I would entertain a motion to approve as modified with the definitions and the specific zoning designations of the council-directed amendment in our packet, but with removing the requirement of a special use permit from TND, NCC, and rural commercial.
To be sure that
And
excludes.
and that would exclude the downtown district.
So moved.
Motion by Charlie, seconded by Jason. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, it passes unanimously. I will also need a motion that the text amendment is reasonable and in the best interest of the public and consistent with the goals of the comprehensive land use plan and land use and economy. Motion by Jason, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor? Any opposed? That also passed unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Sometimes it takes us a little bit longer, but I think our deliberations result in a better product and outcome in the end. So thank you, everyone, and thank you guys. You do a wonderful job, and we're excited to see what you're going to bring in the second store, if approved by the state. Yes. All right, so that concludes the regular agenda, bringing us now to other business. Alex, why don't you start?
Thanks, Jim. Just a couple things here. So Miles, just to confirm, because I do have it in my other business as well, are we kind of clear, good on the Poplar Street?
I can tell you what I wrote down. Council direction was, a designated day for yard waste pickup, notify the citizens, give them grace, and then I also wrote staff to discuss with residents on options. Those were my 4 points that I made that,
I mean, I think that sounds right, but I do think it's important just to kind of maybe get some community engagement, since it is going to be particularly this one outlier. Because what we don't want to do is create something that doesn't work for the majority of people, right? And then we're back to step one. So I think the community engagement piece is going to be really big.
Yeah, but I also agree that when you look at some of the pictures, it's like, well, what are you supposed to do?
Where do you put it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's where the frustration stems
Yes.
from.
And clearly law-abiding citizens.
Yes. Thank you, Miles. You included this in the packet, but just for public record as well, can we talk a little bit about South Fork Parkway? I think this is one I'm going to continue to bring up in regards to NCDOT taking this over as opposed to the city keeping this. Last time I talked to Mark Stafford at the MPO meeting, who is our engineer, he said that the state would be willing to take it. We need to get this in writing, so that's why I bring it up again.
Good luck getting it right from the state.
Well, in my conversation with Mark Stafford, he said they'd be willing to put it in writing, but we need to get this while it's fresh
Yes.
on the mind before we get further down the road. And no pun intended, and we're the ones responsible for repaving this thing.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. A lot of times it's easier said than done, but we should strike while the iron's hot.
So, is that something, Miles, that we can try to get in writing?
I mean, even if we have to type something up and like,
sign it.
Yeah.
They did state at the last TAC meeting that they would be willing to entertain that again.
Let's get them to sign something. Let's just get it and pay for it, and I promise I'll stop bringing it up.
Staff turns over, so.
yes,
Exactly.
exactly.
It it was brought to my attention by a resident, kind of the area right when you cross the Wilkinson or Bridge, the Catawba River Bridge there. There's kind of an overgrowth. Looks like it's on the city's property. I don't know if it's possible just to kind of trim that and clean that up.
You talking about the sign?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right across the street from there.
Yeah, I spoke with, Public Works today about the median as you cross
Yeah.
from Mecklenburg to Gaston. The interior median looks kind of rough, and then,
Somewhere was getting that.
yeah,
Yes, yes.
we talked about, putting mulch in it, or what the thing we should do there. And then also the corner that's, it's got some overgrowth in there, so to put on the schedule so that we maintain it. Yep, so we actually talked about that today.
And then just two more items. Can you remind me, I know it's been in the update, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier today with some of the reallocation of the funds, but the North Belmont booster pump, I continue to have residents reach out to me in regards to what the timeline is, what's kind of the holdup. I know if there's a bigger scope of project, particularly the SCADA system, getting everything updated, but do we have any updated timeline or any type of information I can go back to and relay?
I probably have to call Jonathan up. What I recall is that we can't communicate with, the booster pump at this time, even though the facility is constructed, we need to communicate with it. And it has to do with our overall SCADA project, and the SCADA project is taking place right now. It's probably a 2-year project, but.
Yes, that's correct. Council did approve the SCADA project, back a couple months ago. That project is underway. The contractor is in the process of securing, all of the materials for it, and we are anticipating them being on site to start that work, in the next couple months, this fall. But the booster station will be one of the first items that they do bring online with the new system. We just don't have a definitive timeframe yet.
Okay. Do you have like a ballpark estimate?
My hope would be this fall before Christmas, but I couldn't guarantee that.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. And then maybe the last one, and not to go too much into the weeds, but just curious if council would be open to discussing it. I know we just went through the budget process, particularly with kind of our water hookups and tap fees associated with it. I've had a couple of people reach out with downtown businesses and potential future downtown businesses off Main Street. And I don't know if there's a way that maybe we can look into this, because I think a lot of those big fees are more designated for large major developments, large new homes and stuff. When we're talking about small retail and trying to kind of start up, it's pretty expensive for them on top of the additional overhead. So I don't know if that's something y'all would be interested in talking about maybe at a workshop. Obviously tonight's not the forum, but potentially revisiting those fee structures.
Miles? We had a conversation about, our rate, water and sewer rates plus our system development fees. Given that we have, more projects now than we had when the previous rate studies were conducted. We've got a moratorium project now that's probably gonna be greater than our $10 million, state grant. We've got, an additional 500,000 gallons that we need to purchase from, City of Charlotte. We've got, multiple CIP projects, and so we actually had a conversation a couple of weeks ago about, if we could start our water and sewer, fee study and our system development fee study, sooner than waiting like another, 3 years or whatever it may be, to do one sooner than later. To update all the numbers, plus, if you recall the budget process, we didn't receive the revenue that we had projected either, through the existing rate study. So we talked about, who to use. We hadn't, to my knowledge, we hadn't picked out who we plan to, engage on that. We do have like multiple, master, engineering companies that are on call for us, but there's also companies out there like, City of Charlotte recommended a few to us as well. So to get them engaged, it would have to be probably part of the queue process. We hadn't got to that point yet. It's just now budget year. The budget just kicked over, so to start that right now, we hadn't laid it out, but there's already discussions internally on it.
Okay, because I almost wonder, like if I think back to it, we try to break it out, because again, if you're talking talking about like a massive plant or these massive buildings, you know, it makes sense, but when you start dialing it down to smaller retail, is that cost, you know, too overburdensome? So I don't know if there's a logic that we could look into, that maybe is like a ratio or percent allocation or something, so that we're not burdening potential new retailers from coming into our downtown district.
I think that'd be something that the consultant could help us out with.
Okay. Just to put it on the radar.
Yeah. Sort of the same thing with like system development fees, how much is, you wanna make the appropriate amount of money, but if you set it too high, then you're gonna stifle, development. So-
Correct. But Jim, that's all I have. Other people.
Thank you.
Charlie.
Let's see, I just have a question, 40 miles real quick. I've been getting a lot of complaints about the Duke Energy work on South Point Road every day.
Yes.
I'm assuming that's gonna wrap up before school starts, but do you have a timeline?
I do not, but, let's.
I actually, had somebody go down and speak with them this morning, because I was concerned. From what we were told, they're supposed to be wrapping up in about 3 weeks or so to get that, job finished. But during school hours, we spoke to them, they said they're not gonna start till like 10 o'clock in the morning,
Okay.
and then they're gonna quit at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just so they don't interfere with school traffic.
They might be cutting it close.
Yeah, is there a way to make it 2 o'clock? 3
Well,
o'clock?
school over there lets out at 3:30,
Yeah.
somewhere in that area, so it's, they were gonna quit and be wrapped up and gone by 3 o'clock. But I could talk with them and see if you want us, you know, if you want us to move it up a little bit more, I can see if that's possible.
I feel like 3 is cutting it close. I mean, people are pre-positioning for.
You go like 9 to 2, maybe.
Yeah.
But they're on the lower end past the school too, so keep that in mind, so.
Do you know if that 3-week timeframe, did that include taking down the old poles, if they're putting in new?
Yeah, I don't know, I didn't.
Seems like it always takes them
them.
forever to come back.
They just told me 3 weeks to be completely finished with the project, so I'm assuming that would be, but. I don't know.
I should probably put this, when does school start?
13.
13.
So we're gonna have a couple weeks of school and road work happening simultaneously. That'll be fun.
Thank you for taking
Yeah.
the initiative,
Yeah.
reaching out to them.
And then one last thing, I know he's only been on the job a couple months, but I just want to give kudos to Jason Lineberger, our new head of Parks and Rec. The work he's done at Davis Park, I mean, if you haven't seen it yet, we're putting in a new batting cage. He's got grass in the foul areas, do the dugouts. I mean, the field's looking amazing. And it's been, what, how long you, 2 months on the job? Something like that?
Close to that.
Yeah. So just thank you for jumping in and getting after it right away. Like the improvements are definitely noticeable, so thank you.
I appreciate that, but we couldn't have done that without the help of Public Works and everything they've done to actually put the stuff in, but thank you.
Thank you. Jason.
Assistant Chief Pullen, sorry, I just thought about this a moment ago, I don't mean to push on the spot, but with school going back in session here soon, it seems to be a recurring topic tonight. Can you just kind of speak to what you guys' plans are? I know it seems like for the first week or two every year, you kind of either run some extra.
Yeah, so I've been working real closely with Kevin Wiggett, our traffic sergeant. He and I met this morning on the same thing, because we're very concerned about that. So the first 2 weeks of school, I got my entire admin staff coming in as well, including myself. We'll be watching stop sign violators, red light violations, speeding violations. So we're gonna be working close with the traffic unit. The entire admin staff will be coming at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we'll also hit it again in the afternoon.
What about the traffic flow, especially on the South Point Road corridor? The crossing guards there, remind me, are those your staff?
Yes, they are.
Okay, and that's at, remind me, I know you got one at the middle school at Bellwood, one at McKee Farm,
That's correct.
and then is there also one in Nixon?
No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Are we all staffed, sorry Jason, are we all staffed up? I remember last year we had an open crossing crossing guard position.
We are, but we have one, we just touched base with him again this morning too. He's having some medical issues, so, but I'm gonna have, one of the officers fill in until he comes back to work.
Thank you. Sorry, Jason.
No, that's fine.
And I'm assuming that, because I hear sometimes regarding like the traffic patterns and everything at Page, I know it's not on the flash point of South Point Road, but I'm assuming everything, you know, you all are working on that as well.
Yeah, we stay on top of that every year because we always have a few issues, but we're on top of that as well.
Great.
And then we'll take any complaints that come in, we'll just look into it and investigate it and see what we can do to mitigate that.
I know this is a topic, Miles, that comes up a lot at our TAC meetings, but is the syncing of the lights in that stretch of South Point Road, does it change at all when school's in session versus not, or, you know?
On South Point Road,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of the DOT because of the way they got their lights synchronized.
Yeah.
To coincide with each other, so.
Can't remember if it changes whenever school goes back. Okay. All right, thank you, appreciate it.
You might as well stay up there. Do you have anything else, Jason?
No, okay, thank you.
All right, thank
Are you
you.
going to talk Halloween or something?
No, I'm not gonna talk about that. I'm gonna talk about some other things, though.
Actually, I did reach out about that as well, but we haven't heard back from them up in North Belmont.
Yeah.
So we're still waiting to hear back from them.
Appreciate you doing that.
Good, yes, thank you. But I do, because you all are having National Night Out / Back to School Bash tomorrow night, are you not?
Yes, that is correct, providing the weather holds out.
Oh, yes, it's
We're
true.
gonna make a decision at 8 o'clock in the morning.
All right.
Just according to what the weather is doing at that time.
Okay, and I'm assuming it'll be communicated by social media.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
Is there a rain date?
We haven't made a date up yet, we're looking at what date works the best for everybody.
Yeah, hopefully it
But
won't come.
once we cancel it out, we'll get a date determined tomorrow, and we'll get that sent out as well.
A couple of other things. I had someone reach out again on Oak Street, and I know we went back and forth on sort of the traffic calming measures, and we put perhaps somewhat controversial stop sign or two up there. But you know, apparently there continue to be some speeders in that area, and so I think the request was even, you know, if somebody could be, you know, like you do on some of the other thoroughfares, just a car there, even a couple times more than what you're doing. Because I see that in the weekly report sometimes, like you sit at different, and we had a lot of issues at Keener and Parkdale, I remember, and now I often read about how there's a car, I see the car sitting out there a lot of times, so, you know, that maybe that's something you could add to the rotation just on Oak Street, because apparently there's continuing to be speeders in that location.
Yes, we will do that, and just to let you know too, when school starts up, we're gonna hit it really, really hard for 2 weeks, and that is one of the areas I got on my list for that as well.
Okay, very good, thank you.
That intersection at Davis Park too, where you've got the
Yes.
three-way stop sign.
Yeah, I got that on the list as well.
I don't, it's sort of related, but, and I know, Jason, you've had this brought to your attention before, but Miles and I were contacted by a resident on Julia Avenue whose internet connection went out. He thinks because it was clipped by a big truck, clipped the pole or something that knocked out a couple houses' internet connection for a few days. But I know you saw something about these large trucks driving down Julia Avenue.
Yeah, I think that was really more the impact they were having on the roadway.
Yeah, well, I mean, the same, but it's just two sides of the same coin. It's
Yeah.
the same, and I know, Miles, I think you've talked to Chief Falls about that, and we're gonna maybe revisit it, because I mean, I know, like, there's other areas where we have said no trucks, like Brook.
Over a certain.
Yes,
Yeah.
but certainly none as long as Julia Avenue. So I don't know what's feasible, but it has been brought to our attention in a couple of different manners. So it might be worth having a discussion about the large trucks using Julia as a cut through, and whether anything can be done about it, whether it's feasible to do that, whether it would be a good idea in the long run, or whether there would be unintended consequences. But I think probably worth the discussion considering when that resident contacted me, I remembered you had flagged that issue from somewhere else as well.
We can look into it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief, Assistant Chief Pullen. Just two other things. Our comprehensive land use plan update went live. Maybe Rachel, if you want to just, for Reagan, yes, oh, I see where you are. Just give a quick update on that for anyone so interested. And then the planning board will be reviewing it, and then we will be reviewing it at an upcoming workshop in September.
Yes, that's right. So the URL that you should make a note of is www.ourbelmont.org. That's our comprehensive plan update website, and we've been posting our plan updates there throughout the process. But yes, as Mayor Pro Tem Heffron mentioned, on Friday evening, we posted the full comprehensive land use plan draft, the updated Wilkinson Boulevard small area plan draft, the multimodal transportation network plan draft, and a memo documenting the findings and the applicability of the Lucid sewer model. So all of the documents, all of the work products that have come out of the last, I think 15, 16 months since last April when we started, are now available for public review. So we encourage folks to take a look. If any members of the public take a look and have questions, or any members of council or planning board, we welcome you to reach out to our department just via email and let us know. But yes, the Planning and Zoning Board will hear that presentation on Thursday, August 21st at their regular meeting. And pending their results of their discussion, we anticipate bringing it forward to council on September 15th. So we look forward to that.
Thank you. Thank you for all your hard work on that.
Yes.
And then just the last thing, the Belmont Historical Society will be having their annual silent auction and dinner on Saturday, August 23rd. Tickets are $30 a piece. I've talked to Miles about the city potentially sponsoring a table, but that's a very important fundraiser for them and the work that they do. And I know many of us have attended that event in the past and look forward to doing it again, but we will anticipate that on the 23rd.
Do you have a time?
What is that, like 6 to 8?
6 o'clock.
First United Methodist.
Yes, at First United Methodist.
Yes. And if you're available to help, sometimes they need help the night before to put the tables together.
Or taking the tables down afterwards, as some of us have done in the past. Yes. All right. Well, very good. That's all I had. Miles, did you have anything?
No, sir, I'm fine.
Okay. Parks. Having nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Alex, seconded by Charlie. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.